people on the call tonight from literally all over the world. So thank you very much for joining us on this talk about your immune system and the role that nutrition plays. So I've got a very short job tonight, but a very pleasurable one, to introduce our guest speaker, Dr. Colin Robertson. Dr. Colin is a global researcher in the field of nutrition and epigenetics, and just an all-around superstar. I have had the pleasure of knowing Colin professionally and personally for many years, and he never ceases to amaze me with his knowledge, but absolute passion for really educating people so they can make great lifestyle choices that ultimately positively changes the direction and course of their long-term health outcomes. So I'm sure tonight will be no different. It's always a pleasure, Col. So that's I'm just going to hand over to Col now without further ado. Col, you are the only man on the center stage tonight, so we're all here to listen to you, and thanks in advance for your time. I know it's a precious time, so thank you very much, and I'll hand over to you. Thank you.
Thanks, Kate, and as always, overly kind, but I really do appreciate it. Thank you very much, and good evening, everybody. And I genuinely do. Me giving up an hour or two of my time is nothing compared to the amount of people who are really giving up their time to listen to something that I might have to say. And I do take your time very, very seriously, and I've got a lot of respect for it. And when I'm starting to put together something that I'd like to share, and something that's hopefully something that is going to be a benefit to you and give you some insight or make you think about something in a different way, it gets harder and harder, because I know that you guys have got a huge interest in this area of health and nutrition, and that you will do a lot of your own due diligence and reading, and you'll listen to a lot of really good people speak. And since I moved across to Zinzino, which was in December last year, I've joined a company there, and particularly within our team, the research team and the product development team, of really highly esteemed individuals. The level of those people, it still hasn't worn off. We had a meeting this afternoon, and the level of the debate is exactly the same tone, content, context, and exploration as when I'm at a university dealing with a room full of professors, and quite rightly so, because that's the caliber of the people who inform these products. So I'm always mindful that you've listened to really, really good people tell you really, really good things. So I think, well, what can I do that's going to add to that and maybe give you a different insight? So what I've done is I've drawn a lot on my kind of broader experience, and I'm going to talk about the immune system tonight, and I'm going to talk about the diet and how that's implicated within the immune system. I'm going to try not to get too technically sciencey. Okay, we're not going to go into molecular level and physiological exchange, because I don't think that's any benefit to you. That's for, with all due respect, people like me to figure stuff out so that we can generate things that benefit everybody else. What I want to look at is broader terms. I am going to look at it in the context of another pandemic that's been going on for a long, long time. I want to framework some of this within obesity. Don't go, God, we're fed up of listening to that, because there's a reason why. I do want to look at things in the context of COVID-19, because it's very relevant and it's very now. And as the title said, I want to take the opportunity to clear a few matters up, because I don't spend a lot of time on social media, to be honest with you. I used to back in the day, but I don't anymore. But the bits that I do see when I check in just to see how my loved ones and friends are cracking on and want to see a few nice pictures, gives me cause for concern. Some of the language that gets used and some of the ideas that get shared. So hopefully tonight we can clear some of that up, and by being on a more sure foot, having a clearer message, I promise you, you'll make a bigger impression on how people think, win more hearts and minds, and therefore change more behaviors. And it's by changing behaviors that we bring about a positive outcome and a health change. That's the important part. So I'm not going to do, I was going to lie then. I'm going to say I'm not going to do death by PowerPoint. I've got a ton of PowerPoint slides, but there's content on them. Feel free to read. I'm not going to read them to you. I'm going to try and avoid that, because I'm aware of the fact that you can all read, but we're going to discuss the themes that appear on those slides. So give me 2 moments to share my screen with you. And let me see where this is. Press play. Right, folks. So now we can start to delve into it. Okay, get comfortable, because there's a lot for us to discuss. And if you do have questions, please, please, please either write them in the chat and we'll pick them up at the end, or hold on to them to the end and we'll spend some time and we'll have a look at them. Okay. So we're going to look at what this evidence-based nutrition is in the immune system. And the immune system has never been talked about more than it has been for the past 6, 9, 12 months. And I can promise you that I've been working professionally within this space, health, fitness, and elite sport for 25 years, quarter of a century. I've been praying for the day that people wanted to have conversations about this. And it's come upon us because the world is dealing with a global pandemic. Okay, that's terrible. But the fact that people are switching on and realizing there's more they can do about their health, that is a positive. You know, this has been a shot across the bow. And just for those who don't know, my background covers everything from being a clinical exercise physiologist, supporting people to deal with their recovery and rehab from cancer, cardiovascular disease, stroke, type 2 diabetes, COPD, musculoskeletal, all the way through to preparing people to go to the Olympic Games, climb Everest, row the ocean, and everything in between. And I work still to this day on a lot of general health agendas certainly across the UK and even across the globe. And despite my passion for sport, my real passion, the thing that really drives me, is facing the health crises that we have going on. Way before COVID-19, we have a health crisis. So all of that is in here somewhere tonight. So I've said this before, apologies, because I'm going to say it again, and I'll say it again after tonight. We don't have a health service. We have a sickness service. And I'm a huge advocate of the NHS. I've worked for the NHS. I've researched for the NHS. My wife works for the NHS. I am not knocking the NHS, but the NHS is a sickness service. You only engage with that when you're sick, when there's something wrong. It's not a health service. Yes, it's aimed towards the restoration of health, but it's not a health service. It's a sickness service. You go in there when things are bad, and they'll try and patch it up and get you back on your feet and back out into the world. Prevention, a milligram of prevention is worth a kilogram of cure. How we manage ourselves, our own accountability for the choices we make every single day with regards to the food we eat, our physical activity, our exercise, and our lifestyle choices. These can all have a negative and a positive impact. And prevention is whereby we go, I'm going to invest in the future version of me. That's what prevention is all about. Thinking about, how do I want to be, not just today, but tomorrow, next year, the year after, setting yourself up for success, investing in yourself via those choices. And that's about switching on and realizing that the quality of your life is directly related to the quality of your behaviors. The difference between being more conscious about those food choices, the difference between being more committed to your levels of physical activity, being more dedicated to your exercise and how it works for you and what it can give you back. These are all preventative things. And why do we do this prevention? Well, I had this conversation with a colleague of mine a couple of weeks ago, and I tried to framework it this way. It's not all about the 10 years, the 20 years time, the 30 years time down the road. It's not all about that. It's all about today and tomorrow, and being able to physically engage in this incredible world, which incidentally is so rare that we take it for granted. Right now, we've got satellites out looking all across the cosmos for other signs of intelligent life. And to date, we've found none. People have different ideas about that. We've got no substantial evidence or proof that there's any there. But there's us on this tiny blue dot in the middle of an infinite and expanding universe. There's 7.8 billion of us, but we're really rare. It might seem busy at times, but within the context of infinity, we are just a drop, literally a splinter in the mind's eye of a concept. We should embrace that every single day. The minute you see a hill, this is how I feel, you go, I want to get up that hill, you should have the physical capacity to do it. The minute you just want to run down a road, cycle a bike, go for a swim, just express yourself and be joyful and breathe in the air and physically engage, because life is awesome. That's what prevention is about. It's about feeling that and being addicted to feeling good and being able every single day to go, I want to take part, and what can I do? And accept nothing less than the best of an adventure you can achieve that day. So let's start off with our language. Okay, remember I talked to you about what I've been looking at on social media. I'm going to come down on you now as the research science police, and I want you to start using better language, because what happens is that there are people who would like to contest much of what we might discuss tonight. And what they'll do is they'll pick up on the minutiae, because the facts speak for themselves. So when we say things like healthy food boosts the immune system, they will confront that and go, it doesn't boost the immune system. Nothing boosts the immune system. It's about normal function in the immune system, and they're right. But they'll use that to discredit, even though we know what you mean by that. It's used to discredit the really positive and important information that's coming through. So I'm going to make it really clear to everybody. Healthy food does not boost your immunity. Food supplements do not boost your immunity. The facts are, healthy food supports the normal functioning of your immunity. And likewise, good food supplements, and we'll return to that theme later, also support the normal functioning of your immunity. And that's amazing. That is incredible. That is a wonder of the natural world. Maybe because 6.5 million years worth of evolution, 300,000 years in our current form, we've grown up living off the land. We've developed through and with nature, not at the cost of nature up until now. And our immune system has refined and evolved and knows how to work. Okay, so we don't boost it. The problem that we've got is a lot of people currently are dealing with suppressed immune systems, compromised immune systems that don't function normally, and therefore leave them more vulnerable. What we want, because it's the best we can get, is a really good, normal, effective, functioning immunity. That's it. That's powerful enough. And that's why we should use that term. You know, often in research and academics, we delve down into that. We can be a little bit kind of pedantic about things, but it matters. It doesn't boost it. It makes it work. It makes it function normally. And that's exactly where we need it to be. I don't know why every time it goes back to that. Okay, I want us to look at some fictions, okay? Good nutrition will block all illness. It's not true. It's not true at all. Taking vitamin D will stop you getting COVID-19. That's not true at all. And if I had £1 for every time I've been interviewed about this and asked that question, I would be a millionaire. Maybe not, but you know, I'd have made a few quid. Vitamin D will not stop you getting COVID-19. Taking vitamin C will not stop you getting cancer. There have been clinical trials done time after time, meta-analyses, systematic review. It won't stop you getting cancer just by having vitamin C. And taking omega-3 boosts your immunity. It's not true. Remember what we said already about boosting immunity? It won't do that. We don't need a boosted immunity. We need a normal functioning immunity. So the facts are, good nutrition helps to prevent non-communicable diseases. Fact. All the evidence is out there. In my role, prior to joining Zinzino, but especially since I've joined Zinzino, people hammer me all the time. I want the research. Tell me the research. Point me at the research. Sometimes these are lazy people who want me to do their job. They show me the research. Like, well, that's what we do as research. We gather the evidence and we take an impartial look at it. If you're also a researcher and you're asking me to show you the research, maybe you should do what I do and go and access all that research. However, point aside, some people are just keen and hungry for knowledge and want to know what the research says. And the research says that good nutrition helps to prevent non-communicable diseases. So the top diseases you can think of, the things that I'm not meant to talk about really, cancer, diabetes, cardiovascular disease, metabolic syndrome, all these things, stroke, neurological disorder. Good nutrition helps to prevent. Taking vitamin D will support the normal function of your immune system. Fact. And EFSA, the European Food Standards Authority, who control a lot of what we can talk about, and you have to have a regulator. That's an EFSA-approved statement. Taking vitamin C will support the normal function of your immune system. The omega-6-3 balance optimizes cellular health and plays a part in the normal function of the immune system. That's exactly what we want. We want our immune systems to function normally. The problem that we've got is there is a ton of people, millions of people, whose immune system doesn't function normally. That's the problem we've got, okay? And we can damage the function of our immune system quite simply by not getting some basic things right. And that comes down to, first and foremost, the food choices we make. As I'll get to a little bit later, food choices aren't a simple case of, putting energy in and then spending the energy. It's not a passive transfer. I always say to people, think of it this way. Your food is an environment coming through you. And I always say, imagine the environment you'd like to go through. Do you picture forests, beaches, hills, mountains, valleys? Is that where you like to go through as an environment? Think about those environments going through you, and you won't go far wrong with your food choices. Very few people imagine going on holiday in an industrial site, in a chemical works. So think of it the exact same way with regards to the manufacture, the processing, and the preparation of the foods that you bring through your environment. These are the facts. And this is powerful. This is powerful. We don't need to exaggerate because the truth is on our side. And every time we click to let someone in, I lose the clickety bit. So bear with me now, because we're going to delve into obesity. And there's a reason why I want us to delve into obesity. So just bear with me. I am going to labor the point a little bit, but there's a good reason why. So these are key facts with regards to the World Health Organization 2020. Okay. Obesity has nearly tripled since 1975. There are 1.9 billion adults 18 years and older. This is from 2016, who are overweight. Of these, 650 million were obese. 39% of adults age 18 and over were overweight in 2016, and 13% were obese. Okay, so we can see there's a stack of statistics, and we know this, and I've been dealing with this pandemic, and it was classified as an epidemic by the World Health Organization back in 2016. Every year, year on year, adults and children are getting bigger, more overweight and more obese, and it's not passive. Just the same way as your food going through your system is not passive, the state of being overweight or obese is not passive. It's not just that you're carrying extra weight. It's not just that you are heavier. This has damaging and negative effects on your immune system and on the entire physiological structure. And this has got lost in a whole language that emerged over the past 15 to 20 years, where people turned the discussion around overweight and obesity into an aesthetic debate, a confidence debate, a personality debate. And sadly, people like me got dragged into that at times, where they say, you can't say that about me because I'm obese. You're wrong. You can't say that because I still look good and I'm still confident and I'm still a worthwhile human being. So first of all, to address those top three, of course, 100% you're a worthwhile human being. That's why I'd like to help you, because I believe your life matters. And I believe you're entitled to a better quality of it. Secondly, your confidence has nothing to do with your health. You could be literally moments away from death, but brimming with confidence. There is no correlation with regards to confidence and health. Secondly, aesthetics are the least of my concern. Happily married, 3 children and a dog. Don't care how you look. Not interested whatsoever. I don't care whether you think it's beautiful, you don't think it's beautiful. That's not my agenda. And also, there's no trade-off. Being attractive doesn't prevent you from illness. Being attractive doesn't directly correlate to a better quality of life and existence. Things that compromise your health do not care, are completely indifferent to how that's perceived based on current trends and how much people might want to say, that's how I choose to be seen. Irrelevant. We're talking about a quantifiable health issue. And if anything, COVID-19 has brought this to the forefront in more medical and health terms once again, because that's exactly what it is. It's a medical and health concern. So the first meta-analysis of its kind, published just last year, 26th of August, in Obesity Reviews, international team of researchers pooled data from peer-reviewed papers capturing 399,000 patients. And they found that people with obesity who contracted SARS-CoV-2 were 113% more likely than people of healthy weight to land in the hospital. So just by being overweight, obese, you had 113% greater risk of ending up in hospital if you had COVID-19. 74% more likely to be admitted to the ICU. So this is intensive care unit. And 48% more likely to die. So we're talking about the severity of symptoms due to the commonality of the factor of being obese. It's a health issue, not a vanity issue. This is, for those of you who don't know, and apologies, I don't intend to offend anybody, but Nature is one of the most highly regarded, highest impact journals in the world. To get published in Nature, your work, your research is literally world leading. Okay, so this goes back to an article that's 2 days old, January 25th, from Nature. Okay, global absence and target and protecting immune state in severe COVID-19. And remember, we're just discussing science now. We're just discussing the state of health. That's all I'm talking to you about. In this instance, patients with mild COVID-19 disease display coordinating pattern of interferon stimulated gene, so that's the ISG expression, across every cell population. So we're seeing a change in cellular behavior and gene expression that correlates with this COVID-19, okay? These cells are systematically absent in patients with severe disease. Examination of the serum form severe patient demonstrates that they uniquely produce antibodies that functionally block the production of mild disease-associated ISG. I'm going to clear all this up. What this is saying is that the people who have the most severe symptoms of COVID-19 develop the poorest type of antibody. People who had a mild COVID-19 symptoms, they developed stronger antibody. That's a direct insight to what happens to us based on our immune response. So the ones with the worst type, the most severe symptoms, are getting the lowest antibody response, so protection after exposure to the virus. And the ones with the mild response, because arguably their immune system was working more normally, we're getting a better antibody response. And that tells us something about the B cell, T cell production. I'll talk about those again in a minute with regards to our immune response, what's happening at a cellular level, and what's happening at the DNA, mRNA level with regards to the interaction with this virus. This is powerful stuff. So not only are there conditions where you're more likely to have the worst possible symptoms and fatalities, but also being in that group means you get the lowest level of protection having been exposed to the virus. So this tells us something a bit more again about that immune response and what is happening, what's going wrong when our immune system isn't working normally. We're not going to spend much longer on obesity. I think I've drilled home the point as much as I need to. But I want you to look at this. These are just the top 13 commonly associated health risks with regards to being obese. Again, how confident you are and how good looking you are play no part in this equation. All causes of death, number one, mortality, high blood pressure, high LDL, low HDL with regards to your blood cholesterol, type 2 diabetes, more likely. And we know that. No one became obese overnight. No one developed type 2 diabetes overnight. It's a long walk in, hence why to reverse these things also takes time. Coronary heart disease, stroke, gallbladder disease, osteoarthritis, sleep apnea, many types of cancer, low quality of life, mental illness, clinical depression, body pain, and difficulty with physical function, which is why it drives me mad. And there might be people on this call tonight who can qualify this, who've seen the red mist fall. What I detest are those kind of personal trainers, fitness instructors who are saying they're going to help someone to lose weight, and they go to their gym or they go to their studio to engage in their services, and they get given a ton of exercises that are too demanding, demoralizing, shows them what they can't do, puts too much of a stress on an already stressed system. And guess what? That person has a negative experience, negative response, and disengages and says, exercise doesn't work for me. We have to recognize all these factors. We're not just dealing with someone who needs to be made lighter. We're dealing with a whole set of immunological and physiological processes that need to be repaired, that need to be put back, working better, working normally, so we can start to support that person to bring about quantifiable changes to their health. The exact same is true for people who've dealt with COVID-19. The exact same is true for people who, on average, across the UK, across America, Western Europe, have a diet that consists of 56% ultra-processed foods, with processed foods taking up another 12 to 13% of their overall intake. It takes time to bring about fixes. It takes time to start to repair somebody's immune system, to get it to work normally, and to start to put that person in a more advantageous health position. And immunity is at the heart of this. Immunity is at the heart of it, because immunity drives your adaptation to exercise. So when you exercise, a part of your response, the acute inflammatory response, and how you adapt and get stronger, the immune system is in there working away for you. How you overcome a cold, how you overcome psychological stress, work-related stress, the stress of life. Your immune system is ticking away and helping you to get through. And if it's compromised, then you're compromised at core. So tonight, we could talk about any micronutrient, macronutrient, but I'm going to focus on just 3. And anything I say in the context of related to these nutrients are EFSA approved comments. So it's what we can legitimately say through regulation that these things do. Okay, so we're not making any kind of outlandish claims. And the reason why, we don't need to, because what they do is awesome. And we need to get back to saying, no, forget exaggerating stuff. What they do is awesome, and they've been doing it for hundreds of thousands and millions of years. And we've lost touch with that. So let's get back in touch with it and recognize just how awesome this stuff is. So vitamin C can reduce your risk of chronic disease. Vitamin C is a powerful antioxidant that can strengthen your body's natural defenses. Antioxidants themselves, let's tap into now this notion of what our immune system is. They're molecules to support the immune system by protecting cells from those free radicals. So vitamin C, antioxidants, they go up, they mop up those free radicals. Think of it as 2 armies facing off. And whenever we put enough sufficient amount of vitamin C in the system, we're building up our troops, our front line. We're sending in our infantry, our artillery to outnumber, flank, get around these free radicals and kick them off the field. That's what we're doing, okay? Your body prefers it if it takes its vitamin C in across the day rather than in one big hit. So you should be looking for opportunities in your diet and with clever supplementation whereby you can trigger that. Good doses of vitamin C across the day. So this comes down to behavior change, okay? That's the hardest part with humans, is facilitating behavior change, because we like the way we do things, and making a change can be uncomfortable and difficult. But that's what we need to do, and that's how vitamin C likes to work. Secondly, it has an active role in our immunity, okay? So it helps the production of white blood cells known as lymphocytes and phagocytes, which help protect the body against infection. Okay, so again, it's important that we understand the role that these nutrients play. It's not just a case of, well, they're there, so it's a bit like a fuel tank. We've topped up with vitamin C, so there's enough in there to keep the system going. Far more active than that, okay? They play an active role. They're more like orchestrators. They're going in and they're telling other things how to behave, the timing of that, where they need to be and well. And, you know, they're starting to influence and move things around to enable them to do their job and function as they should. Vitamin C helps these white blood cells to function more effectively while protecting them from damage and potentially harmful molecules, such as those free radicals again. Remember, kicking those free radicals out, so we're protecting all this good stuff and keeping them safe. It's an essential part of our skin's defense system. It's actively transported to the skin, where it acts as an antioxidant, helps strengthen the skin's barriers. Low vitamin C levels have been linked to poor health outcomes for decades. For as long as we've been researching nutrition and its impact on health, there has been powerful evidence that links low vitamin C levels to poor health outcomes. So that's nothing exceptional or radical to say whatsoever. That's how powerful vitamin C is. Let's get on to the biggie at the moment. I feel like, you know, a rock band now, or a famous pop band who've gone on and done the whole set, and the crowd are cheering, and then they come back and they play the #1 hit they had 40 years ago, because everyone wants to know about vitamin D. Vitamin D's never been so popular. You know, it's back in the charts and everyone loves it. The sunshine vitamin, which is actually a steroidal hormone. And vitamin D is powerful stuff. It really is. And it's critical. It's absolutely critical. Plays a critical role in promoting the immune response. It's anti-inflammatory and immunoregulatory. So it's another conductor. Some would say it's a more powerful conductor than vitamin C. I don't see why we need to kind of set those two off against each other, because they love working together. They like to collaborate and put out a Christmas single together once in a while. Okay, they work well in harmony, and that's the best way to think about it. It's known to support the function of the immune cells. It helps with regards to the manufacture and modification of T cells and B cells. Can we just pause there for a moment? B cells and T cells. About 7-8 months ago, there was an article on BBC News that said, you know, what was observed with regards to COVID-19 was that people who were more susceptible to the worst symptoms, most severe, had an absence of T cells, and that, you know, T cells need to be in there doing their job. That day, before we got to midday, I had received 112 emails from all over the place saying, Col, what are T cells and how do we get them? What can we do about it? And I was replying, and I wrote one reply and copied and pasted it all those times to say, it's what I've been telling you to do for 25 years. Make sure that you supplement every single day with vitamin D. I've always thought the one supplement I've stood by for decades is vitamin D. And I've told everyone here in the UK, across Europe, North America, take vitamin D every single day. Definitely in the autumn and the winter, but in reality, just take it every day. Make it a part of your daily routine and your habit. You'll be better off for it. There's a load of nonsense out there about vitamin D toxicity. The levels you would have to consume, you would really have to go out your way. Of course, we have to be mindful of it. Too much of anything is a bad thing. But in reality, taken within the recommended guidelines every single day, you're going to be great. You're going to be much better for it. The body produces it itself when we're exposed to the sun. We don't get enough of it in the Northern Hemisphere. And then there are a ton of other things that impact on your ability to efficiently produce vitamin D. So age, gender, whether you're pregnant, your skin type, whether you're Northern Hemisphere or Southern Hemisphere, whether you exercise, how much time you spend in the outdoors, how much of your skin is exposed, do you use sun cream? The list goes on and on. There are key implicators that start to confuse around vitamin D. I like to spend a lot of time outdoors, all year round. Doesn't matter in the autumn or winter because there's not enough available UVB. That's what we need to stimulate the skin response. So in the late spring, summer, I'm outdoors all the more. I still take a vitamin D every single day because it's so active. And here's a key part of it, those T cells and B cells. So these are the ones that are active in that immune response. So when they recognize something that's coming in that needs to be dealt with and taken care of and suppressed and kicked out the system, managed, they're the ones that are activated. And vitamin D is a key implicator in that. It's one of the ones that make sure that those charges take place. Also, when we look at those B cells and T cells, we have what's called memory cells. And these come in the wake of having been exposed to a disease or an infection or a virus. And that's where they go, right, I'm going to remember that. And the body produces these, and these sit, and they're almost like little ninjas. They hide themselves away. They make themselves look like something else. And then when that pathogen, when that infection comes along again, they go, we remember you from the last time. Go in and start doing the business. So we get a better immune response. When our immune system is compromised, and remember a few slides ago now, we talked about that blunted response from the people who had the most severe symptoms. When our immune system is compromised, it's not only a compromise to what we deal with there and then, but also how we recover and how we deal with things the second, third, and fourth time. And also remember, you're never dealing with one thing at any time. You know, what your immune system is able to deal with and cope with is remarkable. Because if you've got a little bit of a low level cold, but you're still going to work and you're still going and doing a little bit of exercise, there's 3 situations alone that your immune system is playing an active part in enabling you to continue to function. And then we can keep adding to that pile. Your immune system is your capacity to cope in a life, in an environment, in a world that is trying to find its way past its defenses. Okay, so low vitamin D levels are associated with increased risk of respiratory disease, including tuberculosis, asthma, chronic obstructive pulmonary disease, COPD, as well as viral and bacterial respiratory infections. Vitamin D deficiency has been linked to a decrease in lung function, which can affect your body's ability to fight respiratory infections. So once we start to understand that, how it's taken advantage of people in the light of COVID-19, which primarily early days was, it still attaches here to the lung, to the alveoli, and there's already a compromise, then it's that domino effect. The system was already compromised. It was primed for something like this to get past the defenses and take advantage. So what do? Simple. Take vitamin D every day. That's it. And protect yourself. Assume nothing. We don't get enough exposure to the sun. Fact. Let's take our vitamin D. To dwell on that a little bit more, I love this phrase. This is off an article, again, just this month, January 2021. These are a group of medics, consultants from the United States. And the line in that is that we can't wait for perfect evidence. And I love that, because it was a real kind of, there's this notion of, and I get this a lot, well, where's the randomized controlled trial, the triple blind trial that's done this? There is a ton of evidence out there, and there is a ton of epidemiological evidence out there. And what we're seeing now is far more live case accounts that are painting a very clear picture. We don't need to sit back and wait. We can tell people, take vitamin D. I've been telling them for 20 odd years. We can all tell them, and we can all do it. Take vitamin D every day. So this paper identified the fact that approximately 40% of people living in the Northern Hemisphere have a vitamin D deficiency. So Carmona, this group of surgeons, they assessed over 154 patients over a 6-week period. Those with vitamin D deficiency had a fatality rate of 21%, compared to only 3% of those who had higher levels of vitamin D. 97% of the severely ill patients that they observed were vitamin D deficient. Adding to this is a Pereira 2020 systematic review of the literature, looked across 1,542 research papers, 27 of which had empirical evidence strong enough to go into a systematic review, which is a really powerful method of analysis. Vitamin D deficiency, not associated with infection. So it's not about whether or not you pick it up, but directly with the severity of those symptoms, 64%. So there's a clear picture across the scale with regards to the impact and what it does, which is why we can't wait for perfect evidence. We can't wait for that paper that never exists that says, right, do this now. We all just need to do it. We need to look at how we can get vitamin D in the system every single day. And we can best do that through supplementation. So anyone who's out there who's the anti-supplement police, it's nonsense. Your argument runs flat. It has to be done this way, okay? Because it's so difficult. It's so difficult to get it naturally within a normal diet, that the effective way is through supplementation. Okay, omega-3. Again, that 40-year-old rock band now, they've come back, they've done the #1 hit, but then there's that other song that's only on the album that the fans love, omega-3. Here we are. And omega-3 is really important, and it's going to form more and more part of people's conversations about health as we move forward. Because again, there's this towering amount of evidence that speaks for itself, okay? We know the influence it has at a cellular level. The cellular ratio of omega-6 to 3 tells us so much about our cellular integrity, okay? That we need to consider, okay, then how do we get that into the diet? It's a vital component for our cell membrane. Again, going back to these immunofactors, famous for its anti-inflammatory properties and controlling inflammation. It supports the immune system by influencing the function of immune cells, such as white blood cells, B cells, which I've already mentioned to you, and then that leads on to those kind of memory cells, those ninjas who are in there. This all plays a part. This is where our symphony comes together of all these parts contributing towards that normal functioning of our immune system. It regulates the properties of the cell membrane fluidity and assembly of liquid rafts. So this is how we move cellular information across. And research now shows that omega-3 plays a role in signaling molecules and therefore influence where and how immune cells are activated. So this omega-3, this is moving the pieces about the board. We're on chess now. Omega-3 is going, right, I need my bishop over there. Boom, move, attack, deal with this, build that up. Oh, the more we look at omega-3, the more we find out about how integral it is to our health. Everything from the integrity of the cell membrane to that control of inflammatory markers, to the notion of nutrients in, toxins out, with regards to molecular conversations, with regards to the production of the B cells, the white blood cells that form this critical part of our immune system. This is a big, big player. Now, I could go on. I really could. We could look at vitamin B6. We could look at magnesium. We could look at calcium. We could go on and on and on, because vitamins and minerals are vital. But I've decided to focus on some of the key players. But we do need to consider quality versus quantity. Too much of the language around food has been about energy balance, calories in, calories out. And the reason being, back in 1954, when we started to label food differently because of the influence of the processed food industry and people needed to be taught a different language about food, we started to describe it in terms of energy. And it's a fact. If you eat too much energy, if you take in too many calories and you don't make use of those calories through physical activity, exercise, then you're in negative balance and you will put weight on. Likewise, if you don't put in enough and you're active, then you will lose weight. Okay, it's really simple. I get bored to tears when nutritionists and so-called health experts start to talk about calorie deficit. I've taught this at university. Foundation, year 1 degree. It's boring. It's so simple. Yes, we know that. Well done. Round of applause for pointing out the obvious. The fact is, going back to that environmental factor, it's the quality of what you eat. That's what starts to engage with our digestive system, the gut biome, which we haven't even touched upon tonight. And that's another key player, making sure that we preserve the integrity and the health of that environment, the quality of what we put through. That's what we need. Our bodies do a lot more than simply burn calories. Our interactions with food shape who we are, from an insulin response, from an immune response, from a red blood cell response to our brain, alpha levels, serotonin, dopamine, all these things, this whole chemical maelstrom that can be influenced so easily, all by the quality of what we put into that system. And when we put in poor quality food, we willfully damage the system. Fact. That's not even a radical thing to say either. That's not me being a conspiracy theorist. That's just a fact. It's a fact. I read a really interesting report just this morning that said that life expectancy had gone up amongst males globally, over the past 5 years, and it's now 67.5. That's a false positive. That's just because it got so low. We were living that long, if not longer, pre-industrial age. We're telling ourselves what we want to hear. That's a fact. The reality is more people are alive older now because we can suppress symptoms better, because we can keep people alive. And when you look at the surveys of quality of health, you get a very different picture. The quality of our health is directly correlated with the quality of our diet. And those that live best and live better for longer have a better quality of diet. It's consistent throughout all the literature. That can come down to socioeconomic factors. It can come down to what part of the world you're born in, all these things. But the fact remains the same. The quality of your diet directly influences the quality of your life. And the quality of your diet, as I've labored, directly influences how your immune system functions. But we've got a problem. I could say to you, so go forth and eat loads of fresh fruit and vegetable. And I want you to do that 100%. You've got to look at your diet. You've got to look at the food you eat. You've got to try to eat more from ingredients and less from products. It's got to come less out of tins and packages, and it's got to be chopped on boards. It's got to be chopped up and boiled and simmered in pans, and it's got to be prepared. You've got to be able to dedicate that time and increase your repertoire of recipes and understanding so you can take ingredients. But we've got an issue, and it's a very real issue. Because of our quest for size, color, and because of the use of pesticides, this has compromised the vitamin and nutrient values of the food we eat. Fact. It's just not the same as the food that was being consumed 40, 50, 60, 70, certainly 80 years ago. Intensive agriculture, and this is not a criticism of an industry. Bear in mind, 100 years ago, there were approximately 2 billion people on this planet, and now there are 7.8 billion, and the numbers are rising. That's a lot of mouths to feed. The byproduct of that is that, like for like, the nutrient value has gone down. So that's not the answer on its own. We do need to do that. Of course we do. Food first. You've got to look to be able to, within your budget, within what's available, go for the best sources of whole, real food you possibly can, and reduce your reliance on ultra-processed foods. Remember, those ultra-processed foods, regardless of what they say on the packet, much of what is in them is synthetic. Synthetic flavorings, synthetic fortification of vitamins and minerals. It's not taken from nature. It doesn't act like food. And that brings us into the broader conversation about the supplement industry as a whole. It needs to do better. One of the things I'm really proud of with regards to Zinzino, and the reason why I joined the crusade, is because of the plus factor. When you see plus on a Zinzino product, that means that the active ingredients in there and what holds it together are derived from natural sources. It's really good, high quality, high caliber food. It's proper 21st century high-tech food supplementation. These are the kind of strategies we need to build in, because the food on its own isn't enough. Again, it's a bore factor for me. It's a cheap thing to say when an up-and-coming nutritionist says, we should all be eating food. And yeah, and I've said it, I've been guilty of it. I'm sure there's videos of me out there from 10, 15 years ago saying we should all be eating the food. We just can't do it. That's the fact. We just can't do it that way. We need to be more intelligent than that. That is the fact, because the food itself is intensively grown, prepared, shipped, distributed. By the time it gets onto the plate, even the age of it makes a difference to what's left in it from a nutrient point of view. So we need to think more cleverly. We need to come up with better solutions. Also, what's the ecological validity of that? We're already running the risk of putting the world at risk. We're wrecking our home. We are destroying where we live. We're the only animals on the face of the planet who've done this. It's not much of an achievement. 7.8 billion people living off it. It's estimated that for everyone in the world to live the way we do in Western industrialized countries, we'd need 3 Earths to sustain our consumption. That ain't going to happen. So we need to be clever. We need to be intelligent. We need to get more from less. We need to look at the ecological validity of the food. It needs to be higher nutrient density. It needs to be better quality, and it needs to be more efficient. How do we feed all of these people? And more importantly, how do we feed them well? Because as I've labored, it's the quality of your diet that impacts on the quality of your life. It's not enough just to give them what can be passed off as food, energy in, energy out. That doesn't shape all the other stuff. It doesn't help people to think. It doesn't power the mind. It doesn't feed the brain, which we haven't even touched on tonight. Anyone go and have a look at the impact omega-3 has on brain development in utero and post-birth. Good nutrition achieves all of that. It creates a normal functioning immune system, which protects us at core, protects us as best as we possibly can be protected. And from there, we can start to make other choices about the quality of our life. And this is where we're going to phase. This is where we're going to finish. We have to change our thinking to change our behavior. 2 quotes that I love, cliche maybe, but I love them. If you always do what you've always done, then you'll always get what you've always had. You've got to be able to recognize, you've got to break the cycle. You've got to at least try something different in order to make a difference take shape. And the definition of insanity is to repeat the same process and expect a different outcome. Extreme calorie restriction, boom, 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 doing this, doing that. You need to try a different tack. So the problem around that, I'm going to spend a couple of minutes, if you don't mind, is that our beliefs are informed by attitudes and what's normal around us. And it's hard, isn't it? It's hard when you look around you and people don't do what it is you're contemplating doing. Think, well, maybe I'm not normal. It's good to not be normal, promise you. It's always good. If you're doing what everyone else is doing, be careful, because that's how sheep end up going into the pen. And when they come out, it's normally to get on the plate. It's good to look around and see what's happening, because what's normal at the moment isn't good. It's, you know, what we've normalized is overweight and obesity and the onset of increased epidemiology around chronic illness. All of that's normalized and it's not good. So we need to bring on new ideas. We need to get new information. It has to be reliable information that can inform our intention. That intention can start to shape our behavior. And then we can go back around to have increased control, accountability, and ownership of our health to bring about more meaningful change and better outcomes. And simply in the context of getting our immune systems to work normally, about making informed decisions, saying now is the time. I don't need to wait for this magic person to say something. It's all there right in front of me. I'm going to start to make those changes now. I'm going to make sure that I'm getting that vitamin D. I'm going to make sure that my omega-6/3 balance is right, because it's critical. If you're not right at a cellular level, you can't be right at any other level. It's the foundation of your existence. And then bringing in that perfect duet, the vitamin C. And then looking across the board and recognizing these are the big players, but I've got to make sure all those other parts are playing a part in my health behavior. So on that note, I'm going to open up the floor for questions. And I know there's already, I'm going to stop the share. I'm going to stop you looking at that lovely picture. And I'm going to have a look in the chat box. But Rebecca, if you want to unleash people, feel free. Thanks, Jay. What form of vitamin C is the best to take? So there's a lot of this conversation that goes on as to what is the best. And I promise you now, when it comes to vitamin C and vitamin D, they're both relatively easy to absorb. There are some benefits with regards to having a mixed magnesium when it comes to your vitamin D that facilitates absorption, and they're also good bed partners with each other in that immunology matrix. But with your vitamin C, I'm going to double check it. In fact, no, I'm not going to double check. I'm just going to say it as I see it. We have, Zindino, we have a product called Protect, which has vitamin C and vitamin D in it, and it's naturally derived, so it behaves like food. It's Protect Plus, so it's naturally derived. It behaves like food. It's a really good dose of vitamin C. That's a great way to start. If you're going to look at how you then kind of support that through your diet, you could even look at Extend, some vitamin C in the Extend Plus product. But then, you know, a couple of bits of fruit. My preference for fruit are things like berries. So making sure that you're getting things like blueberries, raspberries in, greater antioxidant profile, making sure you have maybe an apple one day, a pear the next day. Bananas are great. Your dark leafy greens, okay, they're packed. You know, they've got some really good stuff going on in there. So go for it like that. Simplify it, go for it like that. How many IU should vitamin D contain when taking every day? That depends on that's a great question. That depends on the individual. I don't think I'm giving anything away by telling you this, but we are working on a project at the moment, and we are going to be putting out a part of what I've been working on, and a few others in the team. You know, particularly Ida. I'm sure you've heard from Ida speaking before. We've been gathering all that evidence and information, and we're going to make it available very soon to you on the website, how to individually determine how much vitamin D you should be taking on a daily basis, because it varies on all those things I was telling you about: age, gender, skin type, you know, physical activity levels. There's these things. So we will be giving that information out there as a general rule. And I hate general rules, but I'm gonna say one. You should be looking at around about, assuming all things are pretty standardized, 50 micrograms per day.